Welcome to Bristol Presentz with me, your host, AJ. Today, we welcome to our city one of the most influential groups from the 70s and 80s. From funk, disco, pop, and soul, Shalamar has not only inspired a generation on how to feel good, but also brought fashion, style, and some amazing dance moves to the masses. With over 25 million albums sold worldwide, Bristol Presentz is proud to present Shalamar.
After an introduction like that, man, you deserve a handshake, definitely.
Right, so you guys are in the UK, and I'm pleased to see you guys in the UK. I've not actually caught you guys before, so it's going to be an absolute pleasure for me to see you guys hopefully later tonight. And first one, I'll just touch on, you arrived, when was it, yesterday?
Day before yesterday. Day before yesterday.
And you've already done a gig?
Yeah, we were in Brighton last night.
Okay.
Yeah, Brighton last night.
Right, so
And it's funny because you say that, and we've been coming to the UK for the last
20,
15 years.
Right, yeah.
But we would just basically play the London area.
Sure,
and stuff,
yeah.
It was
So this
good.
is basically your first time in Bristol then?
Well, first time
Since the 80s.
Since the 80s, yeah.
Wow.
My first time.
Oh, that's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Okay, so Colston Hall tonight. Colston Hall first time, or back in the 80s you did the Colston Hall?
But you know what? I don't know if we played Colston Hall or not. Places
know the
get
names.
blended
Sure,
in.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a blur after a while.
Yeah.
With Shalamar back in the 80s. I came here in 2007 or something, 6, 7 with the Thriller Live. tour.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have certainly inspired a generation. From the hairstyle, the fashion, the leather trousers.
Leather trousers.
Howard.
I tried those things on the other day, a couple weeks ago. And it's
I'm
like
so
a
glad
little
he
tight,
tried them and left them.
A little tight, but
Excuse me. Yeah.
it's so funny because fashion has changed so much now, even as far as what people wear on stage, and I like it. I like it a lot now because you're a little more freer. And,
Sure.
back in the day, it was about the group thing, and we were would dress alike as some it's similar anyway.
Sure.
But I like it a lot now.
Yeah.
The way it is, a little more freedom.
Definitely.
You didn't like that uniformity.
It's not so conceptual anymore.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So who thought up the group style? Back in the day, was it something just like an individual sort of thing, or did you have like a particular theme?
It was collectively. Where it really came from was because when myself and Jody Watley were dancing on Soul Train, it was like a competition to look good, to dance good, to be seen, to be noticed.
Sure.
And looking back on it, now I realize that when I was dancing on Soul Train, because we didn't have money. I didn't have money. So we had to take what we could afford and match it and mix things to make things look good and interesting, because we couldn't buy the brand name stuff like some of the other kids could. So when we got into Shalamar, we were already fashion conscious.
Sure.
And so we actually, to be honest with you, and a lot of people may not even believe this, Shalamar has never had a stylist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Every time you saw us on TV, every album cover, every live performance we did, we were responsible for our own look.
Didn't she
But
design some of the outfits?
That's us.
first.
That's
Right,
us.
yeah.
Not an outside stylist. Yeah, not an outside stylist. So
Yeah.
we were responsible. And then when I came into London in the early '80s, and I caught a hold of World's End, which is now Vivienne Westwood.
Sure.
But it was Malcolm McLaren and Vivienne Westwood doing the World's End fashion, some of the new romantic looks that was going on in the days. I saw the punk movement going on, and that's when I got that funky looking haircut and stuff like that.
And it was
Mixing it up.
crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy because we hadn't seen Jeffrey in a while, right? And so he came over, because when he came over, did Top of the Pops, and so when we came over, we were like, what? But it was funky though,
Sure,
and it was
sure.
sung, and I was like really interested in. Unfortunately, we never got really a chance to tour in the States with that whole look.
Sure.
But I was really excited to see and to tour in the States, with that because it was setting the trend.
Yeah,
And then, like he said, we were going. What was the name of the street? Kings Road.
Kings
Road down there. Once we got here and like started going down the Kings Road, it was like crazy, and like just pulling different stuff.
Yeah,
and I look at old videos now, and it's like, man, what were we thinking? What were we thinking? I had some kind of thing twisted around. It was great. It was great. It was
In
like you
London,
said, it was a
the
trend
fashions,
setting.
They were very
Right.
abstract in London anyway,
Yeah.
so and it still is.
And you have to understand, coming from Los Angeles, right? Los Angeles is the last place on the fashion map on the planet. You know, you're talking about Milano, Tokyo, London, New York. Los Angeles doesn't even rate. So for us to come and see all these things happening was like a kid in a candy store.
Sure,
you know? Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Right, well, as we know, Shalamar was the brainchild of Dick Griffey, your father, Carolyn, and Don Cornelius. It's, I'm just so honored to have you guys here in Bristol.
Thank you.
And, just moving on from that, I know we know that you actually got together, was it Maverick's Flat? That
Yes,
you
Maverick's
guys,
Flat.
got to know each other.
Good memory.
The club, there's
Yes.
a club there.
Yes.
So was this the time? Was this a club that you guys frequented?
Okay, here's what happened. I'll give you part one, and Howard will give you part two.
And I'll stay out of it.
Maverick's Flat was like on Crenshaw Boulevard, which is like in the heart of the black neighborhood, in the upper part of the black
It's South
neighborhood.
Central, upper part of South Central.
Upper part of South Central, right. So this club, that's where all the Soul Train dancers were going. So it was just my endeavor to just get into that club. When I was first going there, I was too young to get in, and Ted Jackson, the manager, wouldn't let me in, but I would sneak around the back and then go through a court that they had and then go in the back door. I would just, you couldn't keep me out of there because all my dancing heroes were there. Don Campbell, the Lockers, Tyrone Proctor, all those people were there. And also, a lot of the groups were performing there. Shaka Khan and Rufus performed there, Lionel Richie and the Commodores, Richard Pryor, The Whispers, Lakeside, and Howard Hewett was performing there with a group called Beverly Hills. So I'm going there to dance, and I'm doing my dancing thing, and then they say, hey, here's Beverly Hills, and this group comes out, and I'm like, I was a fan of Howard's before I even met him. I'm like, damn, this guy can sing. So like a couple times I'll go by there, yeah, man, you got some good chops. Yeah, you can sing, man. You're all right, thank you, man, blah, 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 blah. And we never even dreamt that one day we'd be in a group together.
I know, exactly. But okay, that's his thing.
Sure.
Right? And so I'm from Ohio.
Okay.
Akron, Ohio. So I've always been in bands and stuff since I was like 10, 11 years old. And so, like, of course, when Soul Train started airing, every Saturday at 12 noon, everybody in the black community and most of the white community would be in front of their camera, TV, watching Soul Train. So I used to see him and Jody dancing all the time.
Right.
We used to watch it, also me and my band, because of people who were performing, but also there's some fine women on there, beautiful women, right? And so that we would see, we'd look at the ladies and watch who's playing, and then I see them dancing, right? I never knew who they were.
Right.
So my band and I, we were all supposed to go to California, right? They ended up flaking out on me, but I left. I just said, man, I can't spend another winter here, man. Winters were killing me in Ohio. So I jump on a plane. I had like $34 when I touched down at LAX.
Wow.
And like, we got about 2 months after I got there, Maverick's Flat was one of the places that we had on our list of places that we wanted to go. When we were going there, we listed showcase places, right? Maverick's Flats was like at the top of that list, or towards the top of the list. So a partner of mine who played bass for Revelation Funk, who had a keyboard player that never sang lead because he didn't consider himself a lead singer. They were back in Akron.
Yeah.
But he sang background and played keyboards. His name was James Ingram, right? Yeah. So like they came out to LA like a couple years before I came out there, and then they broke up. And T Tucker used to play bass. So there was a group called Love Machine that John Daniels and Alonzo Daniels and everything, who owned Maverick's Flat. They used to put these show groups together. They do top 40 stuff. But all of their bookings and everything were overseas. They never, only place we really played was when we put the group together was Mavericks Flat.
Okay.
Anytime we had a show we wanted to try out, we would perform at Mavericks.
Right.
And then that's when I met Jeffrey and Jody at Mavericks and stuff. And I mean, Mavericks was like my second home.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I used to literally had a key to Mavericks because, you know, we rehearsed there, so I would have to open up the door sometime to go to rehearse because the group Beverly Hills, we rehearsed there and hired and fired people for about a year, a little more than a year before we were able to tour. So then once we started touring, we came over here in Europe and UK and Singapore, all over the place. And I was making like $250, $300 a week, you know, but I was only like 22, somewhere around there, and I just touring the world and stuff. So we had a ball. But then that's when that's when I met Jeffrey and them. And then he can tell you the rest as far as that's concerned. Because I'm saying that because there's a part to the story where I really still don't even know to this day how he got in touch with me, you know.
Oh yeah, okay. So Shalamar started, right? So fast forward, so we're in Shalamar, and so we're on a promotional tour, and we had the song "Take That to the Bank." Okay. Even faster than that, because before Gerald Brown came in, I had asked Howard to join. Right. But Howard had obligations touring with the group Beverly Hills, so he said, "No, Jeffrey, I'm touring with this." I said, "But Howard, we got a recording contract, we got a record." He said, "Yeah, man, but I have an obligation." So I missed him.
And this was mid-tour.
So that's why we brought Gerald Brown in, and we did Take That to the Bank. Now we're in the middle of a promotional tour. Gerald Brown just gets up and leaves us in the middle of a tour, and was like, he didn't even say goodbye, nothing. The road manager just said, "Hey, you guys, Gerald is gone." Why? Because he feels that we should be making more money. This is a promotional tour. Dick Griffey is paying for the bus, the hotels, the gas, the band salary. We weren't, sometimes 5 people would be in the audience, sometimes 25, sometimes 100. Right. It was trying to make a name for Shalamar. Sure. And he abandoned us in the middle of the tour, and his last infamous words were, "When Dick Griffey is ready to deal with me, have him call me." That was in 1978. This is 2015, and he's still waiting on that call. Okay. So anyway, so we have a TV show to do in New York. So we get to New Jersey, and Gerald Brown's not with us. I said, "My God, what are we going to do?" So I called back to Los Angeles. I said, "Let me try to get in touch with Howard one more time." Just Howard came to my mind again. Sure. I knew Howard's girlfriend at the time. And then she said, "Oh, Howard's up at the Motown building." I said, "Okay." So I called up to the Motown building, and Howard's like,
"No, how did you go?" Because I was at the Motown building. I was working with this guy Jeffrey Bowen on this project, and I wasn't contracted or nothing to Motown, but they were kind of giving me the Motown runaround on my money, right? Right. Okay. So I called a meeting, and I'm on this Motown at the time had 17, 16, 15, top 3 floors on Argyle and Sunset. And I'm in one particular office. And he calls the office. I don't know how. I'm trying to wait and see still right now.
Did you call downstairs?
How did you get into that particular office? How did you call that office?
Man, I'm an LA boy. I got connections, man. I got hookups, you know what I'm saying? So they said that Howard was up at the Motown building, and I got the number, and I got to where you were because I asked somebody. And of course they know me.
Okay,
it's not like Joe Blow called it. Like, well, who's this? Well, who do you want? Well, why are you calling? You know, it was Jeffrey. It was Jeffrey Daniel. You know, I wasn't all that yet, but I was a little bit of that. So I got to Howard. Howard is right in the middle of having an altercation about not getting paid for sessions he's done, right? Yeah. And then the phone is for him, and I'm like, "Howard, this is Jeffrey, man. Listen, we really need you, man. We got a TV show coming up this weekend. We're in New Jersey, but we got to do it in New York." I said, "Man, come on and join the group." Now, this is my second time asking him. Right. He told the people, "You know what? I got to go down and check my parking meter on my car."
No, wait a minute. Because, like, I get off the phone with them, and, like, I tell them what the deal was. This guy says, "Man, Shalamar is just a fly-by-night disco group, you know, blah, 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 blah." And I'm listening, and Jeffrey Bowen, because it was him and his co-producer. They start talking and everything, and then I sit, because I always sit and listen, you know, and everything. But when they got done, I said, because Jeffrey told me that Solar was in. He said, "You're at the Motown building, right?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, Solar has an office right down on the 9th floor in the same building, same building, right?" And so I said and I listened, and then after they get done, I said, "Well, I'm parked on the street. I got to go put some money in the meter, right?" So I get up and I go down to the 9th floor, and I get right in and I talk to Dick, Carolyn's dad. And he reiterates what Jeff said. Again, my obligations, because my word to me is worth more than anything. And so I had been working with this particular situation for about 3 months. And I told Dick, I said, well, let me give them an opportunity to rectify themselves as they can or whatever. And I said, I'll give you a call in the morning. This was on a Friday. So Saturday morning, nobody called. Nobody from Motown called me. And Saturday morning, I get up, I call Dick, and I go over to the house, I go over to the crib, and I'm sitting there in this rocking chair. I watched the videotape of a Shalamar show.
Carolyn was in the back bedroom playing with toys.
I was going to say, they sent me in the room. I didn't appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sitting there. I remember sitting in this rocking chair, and Dick says, when the videotape goes off, Dick says, well, sing something. You got to know Dick Griffey. He's like this gruff guy. And he says, sing something. Jeffrey and Jody say you're a great singer. Sing something. And I said, sing something right here, a cappella? He says, yeah. And I said to myself, I said, well, Lord, me and you, right?
Sure.
And I broke into Feel the Fire, People Bryson, right? Mm-hmm. Got through the first verse, half the hook. Dick says, okay, I'll be right back. And he goes upstairs. He comes down and he gives me about $500 cash, right? And I was broke anyway, so he gave me some cash, and then he goes in the other pocket. And that was back in the day where I could ride on Carolyn's ticket, she could ride on mine. So he said, here's the airline ticket. You got to catch a red eye out tonight, which was Saturday night. Said Sunday you meet the group in New Jersey all day and rehearse lip sync and the choreography to take that to the bank all day Sunday. Because Monday you got a TV show to do. Wow. And being from Ohio, you from Grand Rapids, Midwest, being from the Midwest, you had to be cool about everything. Sure. So he said, you think you can handle it? Oh yeah, I'm good. Inside I'm like, I got a job. I got a job.
That's amazing.
And then I called my mom and I said, Mom, I'm lead singer for Shalamar. She said, the Shalamars? I said, no, Mom, Shalamar, not the Shalamars.
I didn't know that. I heard that first time. But anyway, so that was the second time we asked Howard. Mm-hmm. The second time he joined.
Right.
And
then we went into the studio and made our next album. Mm-hmm. And the first single was The Second Time Around, which was Shalamar's very first gold single. So it was good luck. It was good
karma, good things. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, just touching on Solar Records, Sound of Los Angeles Records. I take it that was your first, was that the first, they were the first that you were with in terms of being signed?
Well, actually, it started off as Soul Train Records with Don Cornelius and Dick Griffey. Right. Then Don Cornelius departed the venture, so then Dick Griffey took it on himself, and then he changed the name to Solar. But it's the same company, but it's just a little...
Okay. Just touching on Take That to the Bank. That was my first exposure to you guys from the album Disco Gardens. Was that
yes.
I didn't sing Take That to the Bank.
Okay.
And he still doesn't.
I still don't. No.
I must admit that song made me sit up and take notice because not only was it a really exciting sound, but the analogy of investing in love, and I just thought, these guys are different, and from then on I was sold.
Wow, that's great. We attribute that to Leon Silvers, our producer.
Okay.
And that was the beginning. Actually, that was the beginning of the Solar sound. Take That to the Bank.
Okay, right.
Because we were the first group that he produced on Solar, and that's the first album he did.
Right.
And that was the first single from that album. So that's the beginning of the Solar sound right there.
Right.
And that was something that Leon really pushed a lot. Cliche saying, take that to the bank, second time around, make that move, all that kind of stuff.
Really
I owe you one.
I
owe you one.
I owe you one. All that. Yeah. Which was it was brilliant. It was nice.
Right in the socket.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of people would say that the music that you guys produced at around that time, not only you guys, but a lot of similar bands that you know, a lot of the music, the lyrically was about, you know, being at the club or being on the dance floor or, you know, shall we say, being happy in love. I mean, would you agree with that? You know, to me, it would come across as being, you know, really happy times, you know.
Happy music, you know,
just
happy
feel
music.
But love. And,
Yeah.
Music that inspires your lifestyle, you know, in a positive way.
Yeah.
You know, not just materialism. Like
Yeah.
now, you know, it's just about your car, your jewelry, what you're drinking.
Exactly, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'll take
How
you
much
around the
money you got.
world.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you know, all of the music from Solar, because somebody actually pointed this out to me the other day. Music, you know, you have your situations. Nothing was indecent
Sure.
that came out of there.
Exactly.
There wasn't anything that you would feel compromised in listening to, or you had to
Sure.
put any kind of, well, they didn't have the parental advisory then.
Right.
But I
No
mean,
vulgarity.
Right, I mean, all ages
Yeah,
could listen
sure,
to
sure.
and really enjoy it.
Until Prince came along.
But he wasn't on Solar, so.
Yeah, not on Solar, yeah, but Prince was a dirty boy back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. Little Red Corvette, all
Yeah,
that kind of
seems
stuff.
like, one of
But
the
even when you,
levels
but when you did look at Little Red Corvette, it was ingenious the way he just like placed and the insinuating type of things that he did.
It wasn't
was
just
like,
out there.
Head,
Sure.
Huh?
head.
Head, I know exactly.
That's not the
That
same
was
thing.
like my theme song. No,
Bambi.
Little darling Nikki.
There's a couple of them in there. Okay.
If we just fast forward to current day music, I'm going to come back. But there's one particular song over the last, say, I think probably the last 6 months, and this was something that was done by Robin Thicke and Jessie J, Calling All Hearts. I don't know if you guys have actually heard that tune.
I haven't.
But when it was being played regular in the UK, and as soon as I heard this song, I thought to myself, these guys want to sound like Shalamar.
Hold on, actually, have you heard, it's something about a hat. Robin Thicke does have a song, and it actually sounds like Take That to the Bank.
Okay, okay.
How much-
So maybe we can make some money.
Hey!
they just lost the Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, because you know when I heard this and I thought, wow, you know, and you know, even Robin Thicke. If you guys ever sort of get a chance to listen to this tune, you probably already have. But I'm sure he wanted to emulate you, Howard. You know, with his vocals style. You know, and I just thought, wow.
Is that
What's the
nothing
name
new?
of it?
Maxwell?
It's called Calling All Hearts.
Calling All Hearts.
Yeah.
Is that nothing new? Maxwell came out. When I listened to Maxwell, I said, okay, he's been listening to Howard Hewitt. There's a couple of people.
But Maxwell,
that came out.
but you know Maxwell, because I met him a few times and he acknowledges that whole thing.
Sure.
Says, man, I studied you forever.
Yeah.
So you know that's a compliment, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So, Carolyn, I just want to move on to your musical career. So you have been part of a duo. Was that called Absolute?
Yeah, that was Absolute.
Okay. And how was that? Was that
Brief.
Yeah, very brief. You did an album, didn't you?
Yeah, we did an album, and we did it with Sony Epic. And actually, the album was something that was kind of pushed on by my father.
Right. Okay.
At the time, you know, I had my best friend Tiara Lamax at the time. You know, we both had been, you know, very musical and working with a lot of up-and-coming producers
Sure,
at the time, and you know, had our whole album picked out and everything we wanted to do. Because at the time we had Kyle West and Albie Shore, we had Keith Crouch at that time, and actually, well, I hadn't even gotten to that part yet. And we had and Chucky Booker.
Okay.
We had all these people, and we had these songs and things that we were ready to do. But once, you know, of course, my father signed, which I explained earlier in a conversation before now, that we did work for our record deal. He didn't just give it to me.
Okay, yeah.
But he had his choice of his house writers he wanted to do.
Okay.
So that album was short-lived. But that one single that we did, I think the most fun of that record was we got to work with Jeffrey.
Perfect.
And being that I was always such a huge Shalamar fan,
Sure.
outside of, don't start, outside of the fact that, you know,
Yeah.
I've always had a relationship, especially with Jeffrey the longest, because he was like a big brother to
Because
me.
you must have been on the set of Soul Train many
Of course,
times, all
of
the
course,
time,
in the
yeah.
studio,
And
I mean,
the people that
I
would-
grew up.
And when Shalamar was recording, she'd be at the studio. When Shalamar played at Disneyland, she'd be hanging out backstage with her.
She was
That's why
everywhere.
we call her Baby Girl. That's her stage name,
She
Baby
was
Girl.
everywhere.
So, you know, You got to meet some people. James Brown, Marvin Gaye.
Yeah,
perhaps?
I mean, because my mother, which is Carrie Lucas,
Sure, yeah.
she also did tours, and she would go on tour with Evelyn Champagne King and with Marvin Gaye and a lot of different artists. So I mean, I grew up in tour buses, and
Sure,
I mean, that was a lifestyle. So I didn't know really what I was privy to.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, until now, to
Yeah.
look back on it.
Sure.
But yeah.
And there was also Andre Crouch's
Yes.
gospel choir.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Well, like I said, Keith Crouch, which is Andre Crouch's nephew.
Oh,
He
okay.
actually was a great producer. He did a lot of Brandy, and he's done work with a lot of artists. Very.
That was his nephew.
No, it's his nephew. Yeah, that was his brother's son.
Okay.
I actually was a member of Pastor Andre Crouch's church.
Right, okay.
But he plucked me, not just because he knew my parents, but he actually found out that I could actually sing a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I actually went to get prayer.
Right.
And he handed me the mic, and I don't know how it happened, but he started plucking me out.
Okay,
And I really I actually sing at home. I do a lot of worship music
Right,
when I'm not on the
okay.
road. And he really plucked me out, and I didn't understand at the time.
Sure.
Because the mothers that had been with his choir and his
Yeah,
singers
yeah.
for a long time that had been pushing for position.
Sure.
He kind of pulled me out and singled me
yeah.
out, but he was really gifted and anointed.
Wow.
And I really, I really owe my the birth of who I've become vocally
Sure,
to him.
sure. Okay.
Because he really helped me identify with things that I couldn't see then. So that was a blessing to really be able to work as closely with Pastor Crouch
Sure.
as I did.
Would I be right in saying that gospel music has been an integral part of all of you guys?
Every single.
Yeah, all the way down the
Every
line.
single.
Like I said, I mean, I used to. We had the group called the Hewett Singers. And my mom, first of all, my mom was a major gospel promoter in the Akron, Canton,
Sure.
Cleveland area. So once she found out that we could sing, me and my sisters, then she immediately formed a group, the Hewett Singers. And then nepotism was alive and well in our family, of course. So every show that she would bring in,
Yeah.
we would open it up. So
Right,
we opened
right.
up for James Cleveland,
Sure.
for Albertina Walker, the Caravans, Pilgrim Jubilees, Soul Stirrers, Volunteers, everybody, you know. So, and then we would go out on the road when school was out. We'd go out on the road in gospel chitlin circuit for
Sure,
about,
sure.
summertime.
Okay.
And then when I was about 14, that's when I went, 14, 15, that's when I went into the devil's music, as some of the people called it.
Yeah. Then me, myself, my mother was a pianist.
Okay.
So I grew up singing in church with my mother and my two older sisters. I'm the youngest one. So that's why I continued singing and dancing. Dancing and singing, everything started at home with my family. Then my godfather was Reverend James Cleveland.
Okay.
And I stayed with him for a while, and then I got exposed to a lot. The gospel convention, music workshop that goes, it's still going on annually.
Sure.
And I got to see recording studios and recording sessions. The album he did with Aretha Franklin, Amazing Grace, I was there in the audience watching, because I was in the youth choir,
Right.
so I wasn't allowed to sing on it.
Sure.
And that's how that's how I even met Jody Watley at the church.
Okay.
That's how because Jody's mother was singing in the adult choir.
Right.
So all that came. So I noticed that the people overseas asked that, and they say, "Oh, okay, did you guys come up in the church?" And I know it sounds cliche, but what was happening in America, coming up from slavery and coming up from freedom rights, black people stood very close to the church because
Their
that was
belief in
our
God.
salvation. You know
And
what I mean?
strength, yeah.
And so all that comes from the church into the secular. You know.
Sure. Wow. Okay. We're running out of time. Well, I've just been told. So, but I just wanted to touch very quickly on your involvement with Michael Jackson, of course, doing the inspiring him to do the moonwalk. I know you've probably been asked this question many times before, but you also choreographed Bad as well. Was that right?
Yeah, I choreographed that and Smooth Criminal.
Smooth Criminal, everything.
So, were you part of the crowd in the video?
Yes, of course. I'm dancing in those, and Beat It too. I'm in Beat It, but I didn't choreograph it. Michael Peters.
Okay.
But I'm just in some of the scenes in Beat It.
And your whole dance with your whole crew, then you put
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
We were talking about that the other day. Just a couple weeks ago, I'm sitting in my TV room at the house in California, and I'm just kind of going through stuff that I had, recorded and stuff and kept on it, and it had Michael Jackson 25, Bad 25
anniversary.
Yeah, and I just start watching it, and I'm sitting there, and then Jeffrey comes on, and I'm like, man, this is like serious. Because Smooth Criminal is one of my favorite videos.
Sure.
And I knew he had done the whole thing, you know, and all that, because whenever you describe it, you got to go like this, you know. And so, like, you know, but that was one of the things that, you know, we were just discussing this today, you know, that, you know, you sit there and you say, man, you know, this is my partner, you know what I'm saying? And you know, it's very proud of him. Because I tell the story all the time about, I mean, back in the day, we used to call it the backslide.
Sure.
Yeah, the backslide.
You know,
Bill Bailey, was it?
Well, I didn't know nothing about that until just recently. You know, so we didn't know that we were taking. And if you see the way he's doing it, which I mean, of course, he's doing something extremely similar to it. But when you see, because in our context, we're thinking mechanical. We're thinking robotics, right? So we're thinking an escalator moving back as you're walking forward, right? And so that's why it's really more smooth and out in that. You know, Bill is doing a tap dance, and then he scoots bop, 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 bop back up. But we're taking ours into a long drifting slide type thing. That was the image, you know.
And see, we used to we would do Disneyland all the time. Like we'd play Disneyland all the time. So Michael used to come to the shows. He'd stand backstage and watch the shows. And then he wanted to learn how to do the backslide, because we would be into this song. Our first song would be Right in the Socket. Then we break it down to this groove, and Jody and I stand on one side of the stage, Jeffrey's all the way on the other. And Jody and I would pull this imaginary rope, and Jeffrey would backslide all the way across the stage. From that time, the audience was in our hip pocket. We could do whatever we wanted to do. And so he wanted to learn how to do it. And then Jeff went over. Well, first you sent Casper and Cooley over there, right, or something, because we were going out on the road. And but then he couldn't grasp it from them, I guess. Then they hired Jeffrey to come over there. So cool. Yeah.
So are you going to be moonwalking tonight?
I'll be backsliding.
Okay. Well, guys, I'd like to conclude our chat. It's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to speak to you guys.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure.
And I look forward to seeing you guys tonight. Hopefully you'll come back to Bristol again sometime. And you know, hopefully I'll may get a chance to speak to you guys again, because there's so much other stuff I'd love to speak to you guys about. But unfortunately we've run out of time. But it's been an absolute pleasure.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you.
Thank you.